Okay, guys, so it's officially been a month and a bit since I quit my full time job and decided to go full time with the content creation and videography and all that good stuff. And I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot. By the way, if you're new here or if you don't know who I am, because I assume most people who come to this channel or are looking at this video are from my socials. Um, my name is Joseph. I am a full-time freelance videographer from Southeast London. A videographer, I'm a filmmaker, cinematographer, and aspiring DOP or DP. And this is just, I guess, like a vlogumentary or documentary. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like a window into my life, my really personal life. But yeah, so the main topic of today is about how I've treated my business or how I've been going about the business acumen and thing that I've been doing. It's been stressful, I will say. I think getting into the creative sphere full time is something that you need to prepare yourself to do. And one thing I will say about myself is that I didn't necessarily set myself up perfectly for it. One of the biggest stresses for me has been like the financials. Like I said, this entire thing is to be like as transparent into my life as possible. Nobody asked for this, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways. Yeah, when I left my full time job, it was decently paying, it was well paying, and I saved up quite a bit, but I used a lot of that saving to clear a lot of my personal debt, credit cards, payment plans, etc. You know the vibes. And so for the first like start of like August, I was like in good steady, like in good hands. But in trying to build up clientele and trying to keep busy and do different things here and there, I built that debt right back up. Buying food here, da, 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 da. And lifestyle creep is one of like the most important things that you'll understand when it comes to like financial management. I'm not a financial channel, so I'm not here to give you like financial advice, but I think just as a general basis for people, living well below your means, and I'm talking like well below your means, is the best way to be able to like financially set yourself up. My financials has been like the biggest driving factor for me moving forward. And so what I've struggled with is the idea of getting quick money quickly, because a lot of the time when you're trying to get proper paying clients or people to invest into your work, they don't they don't want to rush things, which you can understand from their perspective. Is like, yeah, they're putting money into this. Just because you have a pressure and a stressor on you doesn't mean they do. For a lack of better words, most people won't care about your personal circumstances. So if you have any financial issues, you sort that out beforehand. And I've learned to do that. I've learned to manage that. I'm still learning that along the way. Not learning, but I'm still going through that process. But that's something I've like nullified and kind of understood early on. But also something I think is really good is the fact that I'm 23 years of age. If you guys don't know that, I'm 23. I'm really happy I did this now. While I live with my parents. I've graduated from university for 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I did a degree in neuropsychology. The reason I didn't go into neuropsychology or the neuropsychological field or any psychological field is simply because the theory and the learning and the understanding of psychology is great. I can do that. It's absolutely amazing. But to then take it on as a job, the requirements that I was seeing that I'd have to do is the equivalent of at least a PhD, then X years in like training and mentorship and all that sort of stuff, just to end up with maybe a 40,000, 50,000 if I'm lucky salary in the UK. Of course, if you go overseas, as we know with all medical fields, you learn quite a bit more. But I just really wasn't ready to commit that much of my life without knowing the kind of benefit that I get immediately. And yeah, that's the reason I never pursued that degree. So I came out of uni and I did a tech job. Tech job. I actually went into a Black Boy Tech finance talk thing where a bunch of different employers were, and one of these employers found me, and the actual recruiter who found me was amazing. We actually had like a really good relationship. I don't talk to her now as much because obviously I've left the job, but we had a really good relationship. And yeah, she was like, I see you're out here, you can code, you can do all these things, you're really technical. Why didn't you come apply for us at the place that I work at? I applied, got the job. So the first instance I applied, the job was actually located in Heathrow. So for those who don't know, I live in Southeast London, around the Woolwich Thamesmead area. Woolwich Thamesmead to Heathrow is an insane journey. And I was clocking at like 8 or 9 every month. But there was a couple of factors that made it really good, which is the fact that number one, I wasn't really well known, so a lot of people I flew under the radar a lot of the time, so I could get away with stuff like coming in late wasn't that big of a deal. Also, number two, the Elizabeth line exists now. Thank you, TFL. Although I could ramble People who know me know my appreciation for public transport. I don't have my license yet, so me and public transport, we like this. Yeah, the Elizabeth line gets got me to that job in like an hour and a bit, like an hour and 10. So most people kind of do that journey anyways into central London or to other places. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. But also the third thing was that I actually got a lot of working from home time. So I only had to be in the office once or twice a month, or at the request of my line manager, which was basically never. And the job was good and the job was great, but then unfortunately contracts got bought out, people got reshuffled, and because I'm new, there wasn't that much job security, so they had to be like, yeah, Joseph, we might have to let you go. But fun fact, my recruiter came in, the old recruiter from whenever I applied first around 2 years ago. And she was like, I heard about the thing, but there's a new position here. And I applied. And then in that same company, I got transferred over to a new position that was a lot closer in Canning Town, which is a 20-minute journey for me, which is great. And that was the job I've been working the last year up until last month. And it was a good job. Obviously, you know, did my best. I worked my hardest. I never really was abrasive or brazen to anyone. I never really had any issues with people. The thing that I think was my hubris was the fact that I'm not a particularly sociable person, especially new people and people who don't necessarily fit my outlook of life. So in work, I never really spoke a lot. I was known as the quiet person, like the quiet kid in school, but at work. And unfortunately, with jobs like this, especially when you get to like corporate or like any of that sort of working space with that kind of people, you need to be outgoing, outspoken, and I wasn't those things. And that probably failed me the most, but I don't think it's the worst thing because I didn't have that much job satisfaction. The job was amazing. I think the thing that kept me in the job the longest was the fact that the people were really nice and they were interesting and had interesting lives, and I got on really well with them. But there's a time for everyone and for everything. And the time came when I was like, yeah, I can't keep doing this forever. Because with me, it was like, I left uni and I didn't give myself a chance. I really didn't give myself a chance. I didn't take this creative stuff seriously. Sorry, guys. It's just my Apple Watch Pro Max Ultra. I'm going to cut that out. Yeah, I didn't give myself a try. And I was like, I thought about it. Like, I've been thinking about this as early as April, March, even as far back as February this year. I was like, I'm young enough now and I have enough of an infrastructure around me to take this kind of risk. My parents earn decent money. I've never actually had to ask them for money because I've been self-consistent the entire time. But just in case, they are here. I live in a fairly good house in a fairly good place. I have a lot of good people around me, connections, such and such and such. I'd be a fool if I didn't take this chance now. One thing I was afraid of was getting to like a 29, 30, 31 stage of my life and feeling like a failure because I'd spent so many years in a corporate job, doing corporate things with corporate people. I'm not a corporate person. I knew from the start I was creative. I used to make music. I used to draw. I used to do art, all these things. And now I found a new medium to channel all that creativity through, which is video and filmmaking. But I need to take that seriously. And so I quit. I resigned. Didn't tell my parents. When they found out, that was an entire ordeal, which is, I completely understand. My parents are Nigerian, so yeah, you can imagine how that goes for any Nigerians out there. Shout out to you guys, but you guys understand what that is like. They were just like, Biola, so you went and did this. You didn't consult us. Chai. Oh God. Yeah. You know, the full works. Sometimes in life you have to make decisions like that, and that's what's led us up today. You know what? It's really good outside. I think I might take the conversation outside, and I'll show you kind of like the surroundings where I live. Honestly, if there's anything I'm very thankful for, it's the choices that my father made in 2012, 11. He decided to just move. We lived fairly close to the train station, a couple of minutes away, like about 5, 6 minutes away. But my dad was like, you know what? I want a house. Then he bought this house, and we moved here. Obviously, I was a kid back then, didn't have much say. But then they implemented the Elizabeth line, and they've been doing refurbishments, and streets have been rebuilt, and there's been council projects over and over again, and the house price has doubled or even tripled. So he has a lot more equity in his pocket, which is great for me when his will comes out. Sorry, Dad. But also, it's just really great in general because the actual environment is improved and it's really nice outside. So I'll take you guys outside now. Done. that I'm in. And to continue the story, so I quit my job a month ago, end of August, not end of August, start of August. Ever since then, I've been making my own ways as a filmmaker, videographer, cinematographer, and hopefully one day the thing that I want is to become a DP or director of some sorts. Creative director, DOP, director of photography. I'm not too concerned right now. I'm hoping it's film, but commercials work and short stuff works. All that other stuff works for me, right? What I've learned the most is that I really underestimated how much of a people first space the creative industry really is in. Because I'm not to toot my own horn, but I have the technicals and I understand what it means to know your f-stop values and your t-stop values and your NDs and the cables and all this. I know all of that, right? I'm a fairly technical person. I've always been for a while. But the thing which, if you guys remember, that I struggled in my first job was the people element. But I underestimated how much that would carry over into this job anyways. Number one piece of advice for anyone who wants to get into the creative industry is know that you're a creative. You can do whatever you can do, but you are also dealing with people. And people may not be creatives and they won't understand your language, but you have to be able to translate things to them very clearly. Yeah, that's bled into other things, which I think the next biggest thing was the financials. My concern was with making money very quickly because, spoiler alert, I've been doing the creative thing part-time, the video creative thing part-time for 2-something years. Ever since I left uni, I picked up a camera and I've been doing stuff. I've had clients before, but I've never dealt with it full-time in this scale. For me, it was managing my time, expectation, and people, right? I'd never dealt with this. Again, it's my first time being self-employed, right? I've never dealt with this before. And what seemed to just happen was that I'd run into clients. I'd run into a number of different types of clients. I think my first and pesky, most annoying type of client or most annoying type of person to deal with was the client who approaches you, tells you how good your work is amazing, and then the next thing they go is, okay, cool, so like, how do we get this for free? Or how do we get this for like £10? How do we, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I value my work at a specific price rate because of number one, the hours, the time, the creative opinion that I have. Like, you're not paying me to just shoot something, right? Because if you wanted someone to just shoot something, there's a price for that. I can offer prices for that. But because the thing is, when people approach my page and when people approach my things, it's like, I know what you're here for. The creative style, the way I color grade, the way I add sound effects, the way that I frame my composition of shots, all those things are what makes somebody more than just a videographer. That makes them a DOP. That makes them somebody who understands the direction of photography, right? And that was my problem, is that I was having people come to me looking for videographer prices or camera operator prices while I'm trying to market DOP. I didn't market myself as well. And that was how I got those type of clients. I had this one person who was approaching me trying to shoot a music video. And I don't really like to shoot music videos, although that's where a lot of the lucrative opportunities come from. But I don't like to shoot music videos because as someone who's a creative, I understand that you as an artist, you have a creative opinion yourself, and that will now maybe interfere with how both of us do our jobs. And so it's really finicky dealing with artists. But regardless, I need to make money. This guy, he approaches me, he's like, yeah, you know, a friend of, and I think, okay, I'll talk about that later. But a friend of yours that reached out to me, they said, you know, you do good work. I don't want to know what your rates are. And I gave him a standard rate. We had conversations beforehand, and he was basically like, yeah, I can only do one day, and I only really want one location. I don't want too much. But he wanted me to storyboard. He wanted me to, like, direct, right? It's like, including all the costs, including the actual shooting and the editing, we're looking at around a total of £800, right? That isn't insane. For some creatives out there, that probably sounds like I'm selling myself short, which I am. But remember, I'm starting out full-time, so I'm trying to gauge as much as I can give and I can take, right? So £800 is what I quoted him. Then he gave me sub-stories, like he just traveled from this place and he needed his business. So I was like, okay, cool. For the sake of like timing and the fact that the shoot was supposed to be, again, in 24 hours, this guy's like, okay, cool. Yeah, can we work it down? Can we get down? And I was like, just to keep it simple, I was like, cool, let's go to 600. We agreed on 600 as the price. Agreed as of around 6 p.m. of the day before that was the price. Fast forward 4 or 5 hours afterwards. He's like, what's your equipment list? I give him the equipment list that we're working with because I don't, unless somebody specifically requires my cinema grade kit, which you've seen before, the FS7 Mark II, I don't give them that. So I'm shooting with a ZV-E10, the one you're seeing right now. And I've shot good work with it. Most of the work on my website, my portfolio, everywhere else that my work exists on is from the ZV-E10. He's like, what's your equipment list? I gave him the equipment list. I showed him the ZV-E10. He was like, is it the same quality as this camera? Is this the most disrespectful stuff? I'm thinking, bro, you've approached me for my work. Pay me or don't pay me. Just don't waste my time. And then I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. Like, I know what to do with my camera. It's my camera. I know how to work it. I know how to create the shots that we need to create. That's why I've given you the price and everything. He's like, sure, whatever. Then he's like, I need to speak with my business partner. Da, 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 da. Right. And then his business partner doesn't get back to him until like really late in the evening, 12 midnight. He messages me like, oh, can we get the price down? My business partner. Da, 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 da. I just looked at him like, the shoot is tomorrow at 11, and you're messaging me at 12 midnight. Business hours are done, my boy. Like, business hours are over. Please go home to your family. Like, go be useful somewhere else. I felt personally disrespected, but that's the thing with this industry. You can't take things personal. Things happen on other people's side. Things things transpire, and you can't really control that. But it was also like, this was something that let me know that, okay, cool, I need to start weeding out unserious from serious clients. Like, messaging me a day before the day you want to do a shoot, not sure about prices, not sure about stuff like this. That's a very fast way to build really bad rapport between two people. And so I wasn't able to do the shoot at all, and I didn't reach out to that client. Second client, fast forward, this is now like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I shot a highlight reel thing for this like party, for this like specific group of people. And it was good. It was a late shoot, 11 till 4 a.m. That was a shoot time. The shoot went great. I mean, there were a lot of lovely ladies at the place, but I was being a professional. I was doing my job. I did my job, and I shot, and I had their camera to shoot as well, so I got a bunch of different angles and all that sort of stuff. And the delivery time was 24 hours. Right? He needed a 1-minute highlight reel, 24 hours afterwards. I shot this on a Saturday, 11 p.m. to Sunday, 4 a.m. I didn't make it back home because there was no Ubers to take me. I shot it in a very distant place, about 2 hours from here. There was no Ubers at the time, so I had to take bus, like train, and like I had to take like, there was a whole, I got home at around 7 a.m. I delivered, I gave the minute reel. Yeah, I delivered it to him at 7 p.m. of that day. 2 days afterwards, he responds, he's like, actually, I don't like this. But he wanted some couple of changes, right? And then he messages me 2 days later on. He's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I need you to change this. I need you to change that. And I'm like, sure. I change it. Then another day afterwards, he's like, I need you to change this. Apart from the 1-minute highlight reel, he needed a 10-minute longer highlight version, which I was editing for Wednesday. I asked for a day extension on that Wednesday deadline to Thursday because it was giving me a bunch of other things for the 1-minute one. So I'm editing the 1-minute one, I'm editing the 10-minute one simultaneously. And I get everything to him on that Thursday. On the Thursday, he turns around and goes, somebody who's in the video didn't honor their part of the agreement. I need you to change everything so that they're not in the video anymore. I've done the work. I've edited. I've gone to the place to shoot. This is not an expensive shoot, by the way. This was quoted at £400 because I took that job on because it was supposed to be a very quick turnaround time. Till this day, I haven't been paid. I've messaged about the payment. I need to be paid. As of that Thursday, he's like, yeah, I need you to do these readjustments. I'm like, can we discuss the payment first? He's like, sure, after you get the readjustments. I'm naive. I do the readjustments, and I tell him, okay, by the way, I'm not available until Sunday, the next Sunday, to like do the readjustments and get them to you because I'm actually busy with other shoots and other priorities and such and such. I do that. I get it to him on Sunday. I message about the payment. Ghost. And I've been ghosted ever since. And that lesson has taught me I need to put boundaries up. I don't have the room or the remit to keep acting out of goodwill. I'm running a business, I'm trying to run a business, and I'm trying to build clientele acumen. I can't keep being really nice to people. And I think that's the mistake that I've made, is I've been really nice to people, right? Because I've just been like, I'm thinking in my creative brain. Okay, and that's another piece of advice to give to other people, is that yes, we're creatives, and yes, we're working in a creative sphere and a creative, outlook. But this is a business, and business is ugly. It is ugly. Business is ugly because money and financials get thrown into stuff, and those are how things are dictated. I've now wasted my time, and I've not been paid for it. And that's something that if I could advise other people, is remember, your time is outside of the editing and your creative and your opinion and your shooting and your equipment. Your time is the most valuable thing you have to offer someone, regardless. I really sat down and I was like, okay, so I've taken on this client, I've done all this work for them, told myself I was going to get paid X amount, and I've not been paid for it. Or I could have not taken on this client, not done the work for them, and not been paid. Those two outcomes are exactly the same. I don't have any more money in those two scenarios. The only difference is that in scenario A, where I've actually worked for the client, I've now given up my time. Time that I could have used elsewhere to better my skills, to work for a client who will actually pay me, or to just look after myself and just enjoy life. And that has taught me that you cannot operate a business like it's a charity. And then the last example of clients is one that's actually very an unfortunate story. It's actually ongoing right now, but it's an unfortunate story regardless. So I had somebody who was supposed to be on a monthly retainer, um, who I was supposed to be working with as a creative director for like their album release, like music release. In all fairness to the artists, they've done nothing wrong. We just had poor communication issues, and I will say this: I'm not above being wrong. I was wrong for the majority of this business deal. Number one, when we started talks, I didn't immediately I didn't immediately express my concern about the financials. I left that till later because again, I was operating on a friendly basis. You know, their music was really good and I was really drawn by the music. That was the main reason that when they approached me for the work, that I took on the work, because I was like, this is amazing. So I went and did, and we were working and we've had a shoot now a couple of days ago. I tried to have that conversation about, okay, cool, because I sent in the invoice. I sent the invoice to them and their manager, and they're aware of the money. But unfortunately, the way that they've strategized themselves is that they don't want payment sent over until they have all the deliverables. And that's my problem. Is like me having dealt with other clients in the past who have now wasted my time, not delivered on their financial not delivered on my financial expectation on their side. I wasn't happy with that, and I was trying to push for a scenario where I got some sort of deposit or I got some sort of, and the artist very plainly said, "This is poor business practice from you," which it is. I should have very much outlined that I need X and such beforehand, before such and such. But they have a deadline for their EP release, right? And I was thinking to myself, I'm still trying to build up other clientele because I have financial responsibilities to myself. I'm still trying to navigate like doing my personal things like content for here and here. I don't know if this is actually going to work out. And I voiced that concern to the person. And yeah, it was an ugly conversation, but I needed the conversation because it's stuff like that that reframes how you understand how you operate the creative industry. And yeah, it's sad to let the person go. They were an amazing human being, and this is nothing against them. I'm just talking about my experiences. Um, but it's something that, like, very early on, if you can, let it be known what it is that you want. Especially, and this is again because I haven't dealt with this full time. I've had people help me in referrals, and this is now me working on my own basis to get clientele. If people have approached you, they like what you do, but it's to let you know that as a creative, you do have a certain level of authoritative power over clients. They've approached you for something. They like your work. As very early as possible, dictate the terms. If you don't do those things, you have not that many people to blame but yourself. And yeah, I think those are the lessons that I've learned. It's been an interesting journey, and it is an interesting journey, and I'm learning things as I go along. Because I also work in a studio part time. I'm also looking for part time gigs to like bolster myself up. Essentially, I'm trying to get back to a point where I'm not like dipping into my savings every so often to save like my financials. Right, I need to have constant flow of money, right, and not just maybe someone will pay me £500 here, maybe someone, you know what I'm saying? And that's like my thing that I'm working towards. And yeah, I guess we'll see. Honestly, it's been an experience. A good experience? No. A bad experience? Definitely not. It's just been an experience that first month out, you're going to go through these sort of struggles. And this is to say to anybody else who's trying to come along this way or trying to do this kind of vibe, that it's like, it's okay that you make mistakes in the first instance. You're supposed to, because I think people really, the way social media and everything else has set us up is that we're really in love with the looks and the glamour and how pretty and color graded and everything is. Things are ugly behind the scenes. Things are really disgusting and ugly behind the scenes. You need to go through the process of making certain mistakes, because it is only by experience that you learn something. It's exactly like I was talking about my psychology degree beforehand. Something in theory is completely different to how it is in practice. I can sit you down here and give you all these pieces of advice, And you might be like, yep, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yep, no, that makes a lot of sense. It isn't until you actually experience these things yourself that you then realize how important it is to actually take on that advice, how important it is that theory of knowledge is. And that's kind of why I want to do these things, is just to give people a sort of warning, or not a warning, but like a POV of someone who's going through it. Not just going through it, but going through it, to be like, yeah, man, it's tough out here. But it has to be tough because the life that you want, I've seen this quote on like Instagram several times, but the life that you want, the life that you're chasing for, is going to cost you the life that you already have. There are certain traits that I have from previous, like my previous professional life, my previous working, like just my life in general, that I'm going to have to learn to now undo to get to where it is that I want to do. And I'm determined to do those things. I think my biggest thing is, number one, understanding how to better relate with clients. I do that fairly well. I relate with people most of the time fairly well, but I need to understand that some people are friends and some people are clients. Number two is setting clear boundaries. Pay me now, give me a deposit. We work to this time. I do certain amount of resubmissions. I do certain amount of reworks. Set clear boundaries. And number three is understand contracts and work on contracts a little bit more. But yeah, I think those are like the biggest pieces of advice I could give to myself a month ago, or to anybody else watching this. But yeah, this has been a really good episode. Hopefully you guys like this. I'm gonna try and do these once a month, just like vlogumentaries or vloggy series about my life, and I'm gonna call them life updates, or I'm gonna call them something. It'll be like a really long-winded title, like those obscure albums. I'm gonna call it like, the Ides of August and the Tribulations of Client Management. I probably won't call it that, but you know what I'm getting at. Anyways, peace out, guys. Thank you for coming. Yeah, man. Shout out. Love. Yeah, I did just want to, like, bonus. I did just want to give you, like, a panoramic view of, like, my place, I guess. So there are the trees, and obviously there's the sunlight. But yeah, this is, like, my area, I guess. That's what it looks like. That's it. I look so ridiculous with a bonnet. I look insane with a bonnet outside. And I'm slapping myself like this. Everyone's looking at me, but yeah, let go of your fears, man. Like, the world is gonna laugh at you regardless. But there's a dream to chase, and you chase it. So, okay, actually, peace out, guys.